take us on a journey. But look, for anyone that doesn't know or didn't read the bio, Cynthia is the founder and CEO of Spiritual Success, and predominantly you mentor powerhouse women. And I've got here that you guide them to tap into their intuition, spirituality, disciplining the mind. I'm trying to do multiple things at once.
You're very talented.
Understanding metaphysics, which I love, and to explore greater levels of success. You're also the host of the podcast of the same name, Spiritual Success, and your success is in business and finance is owed to your study and applying of metaphysics, and it's where you actually mastered the art of meditation, which I'm really going to dig into and ask you a bit more about. Awesome. So welcome. Thank you for coming on. Mastering Success, really looking forward to hearing more about your journey, hearing more about your story, and I'd love you to sort of share some of the ways and things that you do to help others. But before we get to that, tell us a bit about how did you get started? How did this journey start for you?
Sure. So first of all, I feel like you and I are a match made in heaven. You're mastering success and I teach mastering meditation for success. So it's like, this is no coincidence, right? So for me getting started, I mean, how far back do you want to go? Like the root of it all? Do you want to go to like how it got started in the business world and how that took off? What are you interested in hearing? I'd love to share whatever it is you like to hear.
It's a good point, because yes, well, you look young, so I didn't think it would have to go back that far. But no, let me start with, could you start with perhaps maybe even when things weren't going that well, like before you even got started with, okay, now I'm going to help these particular type of people, women. Maybe it's even like before you got into metaphysics, like how did the journey start for you there?
I gotcha. So growing up, I was a little overachiever. I always was. So I have a sister who is 7 years older than I. And very much so, I was by myself. I played by myself all the time. Hence, my imagination was pretty strong. The only time that we did play together, she would always play school with me. Now, go figure, my sister now has 3 masters and a doctorate in education, and every one of her theses she dedicates to her little sisters because I kind of inspired her. But what happened was I just wanted the gold star. I just wanted to be like, please play with me. And I would learn everything that she was teaching me that she was learning in school 7 years advanced of me. So I would soak it all in and I would practice. And right away, when I was very young, I became very successful. My grades, I was always very elite. And I loved it. I loved the attention that adults would give me. Like I would have universities come and visit my home and ask my family, like, why her? What's going on? And I just thought it was cool. Until you hit like middle school area, and being super smart is not the most fun thing to be when it comes to other kids. And the weird part is my dad's an ex-NFL player. So he's like a super big guy, athletic guy. And I took on that gene as well. I'm 6 foot tall. I was very athletic, but I didn't really try. I just kind of had fun and ended up doing really well in sports. So I would make all the teams and I would play against girls that were on all these travel teams. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I had to learn the rules as I was playing. That didn't go so well either when it came to socializing. So right away, the bullying came in, the teasing came in, who's this new girl thinks she is kind of thing. And right away, when it came to wanting to get along with my peers, I realized I didn't really want to be very successful. I didn't want to be successful because I wasn't agreeing with people. I wasn't getting along with people. Being successful wasn't fun. So I went from very extreme to very extreme, and I conditioned my mind to think that I shouldn't be, wanting to overachieve. Well, years and years went on, and then I ended up meeting the love of my life, my husband, within 3 months. We got married. We've been married for over 9 years now, 2 babies. But it was when I became a young mom at 22 that I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I need to be striving for my best. I need to be doing my best. I really need to show my little one that I can do it. And then I went in complete beast mode, and I was just like a workaholic, but I was loving it. It was fun. So I worked in hospitality my whole life when I was in college, at least when I was getting started. And I realized if I wanted to make the money, the margins come with the wine and spirits, right? You upsell the bottle of wine, you get everybody drinking cocktails, and that's where you can make the most money. So at 21 years old, 20 years old, I would make like $300 a night at a restaurant, which is pretty good for a young kid. But I fell in love with creating that service, that ambiance, that hospitality. I knew to make the money, I needed to memorize the wine menu and know each one and study it. So my love and passion for wine and spirits really kind of took over. And I am actually a professional certified sommelier, but through the Quarter Masters. But the thing is, I had a table that would just come in all the time, and they ended up working for the largest distributor for wine and spirits. It was kind of match made in heaven. 13 interviews later, 13, I became the youngest portfolio manager in the entire country for the second largest supplier in the world. So I managed a team of 42 people. And I was, I think all of them had children my age. So it was pretty intense, but I love it. I felt so badass, and I was like, I can do this. And so I worked overtime just to prove myself. And when are people drinking? They are doing nights, holidays, weekends. I represented the entire region. So I would be in Kentucky, then Miami, then New York City, and then in Vegas. And I was going all over these places. Holy crap, wait, I was doing this to be a really good mom and show my kid what is possible, but I was never seeing him. And then when you got older, yes, it was really sexy and glamorous in the beginning, but eventually that industry can get really dark. Alcoholism, there's a lot of adultery because everyone's not in the right mind state, bootlegging, like it just felt like real dark vibe. And I just realized this is not for me. So as soon as the opportunity came to move to Florida, I did it with my husband the first time. And we started a real estate investment portfolio. The finances took off. We felt really comfortable. It was time for the second baby. And I said, this time I'm going to get the mothering thing right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to crush being a mom. And I have a little redhead. And I remember just sitting in the rocking chair, just like holding him, staring at my little bundle of joy, and just thinking like, oh my God, I suck at this. Like, I'm not good at being a mom. I was sitting there thinking about all the other things I should be doing. I was so used to delegating and being here and having meetings about this meeting before I'm supposed to have that meeting. And I just realized I could not be present. How is it I have the most wonderful thing in the entire world sitting in my arms and I can't sit still and enjoy it? And that's when I literally stumbled upon the College of Metaphysical Studies, where I met my first mentor. I walked in there, had no idea what I was doing. I was literally carrying my baby in a little basket. And I was like, they're like, hi, can we help you? I was like, I don't know. I think you can. Don't know what I'm here for. And they're like, great, let's get started. And very first day, my first mentor, I love this woman, Carla. She said, how much do you meditate? And I was like, what are you talking about? No, I need to go. Meditating? No, that's not happening. Like, that takes too long. I gave her every reason. She's like, all right, that's your issue. First time I meditated, I went somewhere. Like, my soul was thirsty. And I always know that meditation is for the soul what food and water is for the body. I'm telling you, I was thirsty. Like, I went somewhere, I came back to my body, and I was like, yep. I was like, this is it. This is it. Like, this is what I've been missing. And ever since then, I meditated at least 20 minutes a day. And that's when it started rolling. That's when the next mentor came, the next mentor. So whether it was an intuitive practitioner, a metaphysical professor, Reiki masters, like meditation practitioners, like even legit magi, like I've studied with them. So I studied all this being with my baby coming along with me. And then I realized when he was going back to school, I want to go back to what I really love, which is sales. It was a whole new thing. Like, the sales was different. Yes, I used to manage all these sales and I was really impressive at sales, but like, it up leveled to a whole new, I like to say it's like ice cream and hot fudge and whipped cream. But like, once you start doing this is the sprinkles and cherries. Like, it's like a sundae on top of a sundae. And I ended up becoming really well known on the online industry for helping a business consultant that's very successful. I was the senior sales manager. So doing online business consulting, within my first 3 months with her, I did 7 figures in sales, and then it just went up and up and up. And so I realized sales is so much about what you can't see. It's creating that emotional connection. It's about really being authentic. And it's really about using law of assumption to help people feel the outcome and create an emotional connection with that. And that's really what earns people's trust. And so then I started teaching other women how to be successful in their business and in finance. And what I call it really is just connecting to this inner feminine beast. That's what I like to call it, because that's what it is. I was playing shy. I had her as a child. I turned her off because I was worried about what everybody was thinking. And then I went complete opposite and just did all the doing. I did the doing of all the masculine work. And then I realized how to work in the feminine when you meditate and surrender. So that's how it kind of all piled up. So a big story. That's where I was like, we're gonna start.
I love that you shared that, and it's not a surprise and not a coincidence that the only people in this room at the moment are female. So yeah. Perfect. Other than me, I'm in a pink jacket, so it could be.
That's all right. You're rocking it, man. I love it.
And look, I had a bunch of questions which are relative to what you've just explained, because I'm studying at the University of Metaphysics at the moment to do I'm doing a doctorate myself. So I love it.
So cool.
Like when I saw what you did or what you do, I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear. I got so many questions, because my journey is a lot newer than yours in regards to what I've been able to do, although I have enabled a lot of things to happen. And one of those things, like you said, quite similar to myself, I put it off for so many years. In fact, meditation was something that I was always interested in and thought, yeah, one day. My auntie is like a master at meditating. In fact, she could meditate for hours if she wanted to. So she, and I was like, oh yeah, one day I'll do that. Well, one day wasn't coming around. And so, but once you do actually get to that point of going, you know what, maybe there is, because once you start, as you know this, once you start to do the inner work, once you really start to discover who you are, yeah, the outside world starts to change. But you then get, I love that you used the word, you had a thirst, it was like this thirst that needed to be quenched. And it never does it? It never does.
No.
You get even thirstier. But it's like one of the things that makes me think about this type of work, and I'd love to dig into how you relate it with perhaps the people that you work with, and maybe even yourself, but it gives you meaning, like it gives you more of a purpose in what you're doing. You mentioned sales. I've got a big background in sales too. And, but there are often times where you feel empty. You make some really good money, or you have, really big award, got some big awards, but they're kind of a bit empty. And, until you start to find, more about who you are and what you're about and what you actually want to strive towards, get that meaning or purpose, you're kind of going through life just reacting to your outside conditions. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to ask you, looking at my questions, we've ticked off that. So what sort of processes, with the clients that you have now and the clients that you bring on, what kind of processes do you go through? How does it sort of work? Rough idea.
Yeah, so when I work with my clients, the very first thing that I like to do is actually set very intentional goals. I want them to understand. So I come from the business consulting world. If I was to be your business consultant, and I like to use these examples because we can figure out numbers, right? Numbers are kind of universal. So if I was your business consultant and you came up to me, you say, Cynthia, I want to make $1 million in my business. I'd be like, okay, great. Well, what is your plan? What's the structure behind it? What's the strategy behind it? And what kind of support are you getting? Obviously, you're working with me. So what do you want to do? Well, I'm not really sure. I'm like, all right, let me help you. We need to start with the end in mind. So the end in mind is $1 million. Why $1 million though? What does $1 million mean to you? What kind of vacations are you going to go on? What kind of lifestyle are you going to have? Do you have children? What is their tuition? If you're going to be donating to charities, how much you plan to do? Like, does $1 million even the right number? And why is it? The why is so important. And then, okay, great. This is $1 million and that's what you want to get, and why? Well, in that case, what kind of lifestyle though? What does that mean? Do you want to, it's funny because I work with so many entrepreneurs where they're like, I just love working. Even when I'm like super made it, I want to work 40 hours a week in my business because I just love working. I'm like, you're crazy. Like, I love drinking champagne at the Ritz-Carlton. So for me, like, I might maybe work 5 hours in my business, right? But to each their own, that's okay. The thing is, if you work 5 hours versus 40 hours, it's a completely different business. It's going to have a different price point, right? Because you obviously can have a lot more clients if you're working 40 hours versus 5. Okay, great. So how many clients do you need at that price point? Okay, well then how many conversion events are you going to have? And how many people do you need to close in each conversion event? How many people do you need on your team to be able to close that? Blah, 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 blah. You have to make the numbers make sense. You have to have it all add up to each other, and you have to work backwards for it to make sense. Well, I like to do that with your goals. And the thing about success is, no, it's not just business and finance. Those things are fun for me. I like those. I like to celebrate, money, but at the same time, it can be your health and wellness. Through meditation, I've lost over 75 pounds. It can be your relationships. I found my husband within 3 months. I knew he was the one. It can be with your client relationships. It's through serving that you become so much more successful. It's literally through all these different areas of success. So what are your goals? And then what happens a lot of time is that people will like come up with the goals so big that they will be overwhelmed by it. So they think they want this thing, but what happens right after is the feeling of, but God, how am I going to do that? And people don't understand the vibration of the feeling is so much more important than even just the thought. And so they get overwhelmed and they don't realize they're actually taking away from it. So I help them to create small goals that help them to lead up to the bigger goal. So I'm a huge fan of vision boards. So many people are familiar with that. I do a monthly vision board though. I don't do a lifetime vision board or a year vision board. I do it month by month by month. And I use it as a visual checklist. I guarantee I get done in a day more than most people get done in a week. And what I can do in a month, some people don't even get done all year. And so I really help them to understand how to time block, how to mentally prepare for these things. But then I teach them how to meditate. So like I said, I worked with this mentor and that mentor and that mentor. I took what I liked from this one and this one, and this one, my own experiences, and I put it all together. And I have my trademarked system that I use. I call it the Successful Soul System, which really helps you to ground and shield and to really go to the cosmos, surrender, use law of assumption, all these wonderful things to shut off your thoughts. Because meditation, a lot of people will think like, they always say like gardening is my meditation. And I'm like, no, that's awesome. I love you. I love that you love gardening. Kudos to you, because I literally kill everything. I either love it enough or like too much or not enough, right? But that's gardening. It's not meditation. And like people will even say like guided meditation, just love guided. I'm like, that's great, but that's more of like imagining or law of assuming or daydreaming. Like I need you to do literally nothing. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's literally the art of doing nothing. Even praying, I pray every single day and it goes hand in hand, but praying is praying, meditation is meditation. So I teach women how to surrender. And by surrender, I don't mean like, oh, damsel in distress. I mean, like literally you do all the doing. If you're like me, you have a million checklists, like done. But that's masculine energy. It only gets you to a certain level. In all things, when we create, it needs masculine and feminine energy. You need to be able to switch the two. And I always joke around and say that like when it comes to making a baby, which is the most complex things as physical human beings we can do, obviously there's masculine and feminine energy. But when it comes to the masculine, I mean, maybe he's there for the night, right? Like that's it, a portion of time. The female then is then sitting there for 9 months. But she's not like, hold on. Sorry, give me a second. I'm growing a baby. 1 second, please. Right? Like she's just doing it. She's just naturally like letting go and allowing it to happen. And she also doesn't say, wait, baby, it's been 2 months. Are you ready? Because that's ridiculous. So basically when I work with women, I help them to really surrender, do all the doing that's necessary because you go, the universe responds, and then learn how to surrender. And then of course, all the sprinkles and cherries on top, which are all the universal concepts that you can apply because there are laws working for you. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. And if you don't know them or have them in your awareness, they could be working against you. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how I work with my clients.
That's a brilliant overview. I wasn't expecting that much. So thank you. No, it's really, really good. And I think that's a really good understanding because I don't think most people think about the law of gender or thinking about the masculine and feminine, yin and yang. And it is important whether you're a female or a male to be thinking about, and that's the simple term, right? Like the doing is the masculine and the being is the feminine. And, you've made me thinking, yeah, I think I need to spend a little bit more time in the being at times. And you're right. Like, I think what happens for a lot of people when they don't plan, and I was one of them. In fact, I went through a process of reprogramming my subconscious to really accept that. And that's why I have planned out my questions for you. Wouldn't have done that in the past. That wasn't how I used to operate, but I knew that I had to have a better way of doing things. And I love that you said, work from the end in mind. Because Steve Jobs has a saying, which is you can't connect the dots moving forward, but you can looking back. And even though you might think, well, I haven't been there, so how can I look back? Well, imagine that you have. What could you have done? You can do it.
Time isn't real.
Yeah. So I really love that. And, you know, and I personally love meditation now. And I love that you said, not guided meditation, not gardening, but I love that you said, you know, you've got to be still, you know, you got to be quiet. And that's what it is, you know, no distractions, like really, you know, connecting.
Yeah, the thing is, even the most sexiest, glamorous, like most fabulous thought that you possibly have is truly limiting to what God's source universe has in store for you. You can't come up with something as grand that's as what's possible. And so the thing is, you need to get to the, you need to do, have the plan, but not worry about the how. Just go forward in the direction and just be open to the opportunity. And when you meditate, it's all about surrendering and shutting off your thought, because it's like you're allowed to tune in and align to the frequency where all the receiving actually happens. So it's the thoughts, they are, what happens is if you turn your thoughts off and you train it well enough and discipline yourself, really that's what it's about, discipline. We don't like that word. We make it heavy and weighted. It's the most beautiful word in the world, if you ask me, the discipline. When you mix discipline with surrender, that's where you experience flow. That's where all the magic happens. And so if you can discipline yourself to sit on your hiney and close your eyes and shut off the thoughts, you eventually end up doing it while you're awake and walking around. It's like you took these blinders off, you're walking to the wall over and over, and all of a sudden you go like this and you start to peek, and then it really opens up. When you ask, the answer is immediately there, but you are being so stuck and stubborn on what it's going to be and how it has to be and this and that it's, you're missing it when it's right in front of you. And so that's really what meditation is, just shutting off the thoughts. You can't think of a better thought than what is actually possible. You can't imagine how great it could be.
I love that. And you're reminding me of a number of people who talk about this, the fact that the logical mind, our conscious mind, is very limited, you know, and it's something that we as humans, you know, created versus, you know, connecting to source. And someone that I wasn't expecting to say something like this, Albert Einstein, said that imagination is more important than knowledge. And imagination is, you know, connected to source. He would get some of his calculations solved, not by trying to figure them out with his knowledge. He would actually get them from source. He would dream them, or he would just quiet his mind, and he'd just come up with these ideas out of nowhere. Well, we know where they are. We know where they're coming from. So I love that you're sharing that. And I think that's, you know, for a lot of people, especially as you said, when they think about meditation, if they haven't really got into the proper way of doing it, they do think, most people do think, and you see it like everywhere, there's all these guided meditations, and they're great. They're still good. I don't mind doing guided meditation, but I do know now the power of sitting there quietly and thinking about, or not thinking, actually just
there you
think,
go.
just think. Yeah, so I love it. I had a question for you, and you kind of gave the story, like the backstory in regards to how you started with hospitality and your love of wine and becoming a sommelier, which is
I love a wine. It's still there.
I'm we won't get into wine because I only drink one type, and that's Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, me too. I love it. That's so good. Yeah, like, yeah. That's funny. Well, how funny is it? I always worked in spirits, and now I work with spirit. Like everyone always jokes about that. It was meant to be.
I hadn't thought of that. That's such a good point. One of my first careers, I was a bartender too. I used to be a cocktail bartender. But what I was going to ask you is, like, has it always worked out for you? Are there times, or have there been times, I knew that would be the answer, but can you share maybe a time that you can remember that it didn't work out and how maybe you got yourself back on track?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, what time? I think the most detrimental time, that like the hardest thing that I've gone through was when my husband and I were doing really well in the real estate. We were doing it for investors overseas, and we did over 300 properties within a year. And right away, just the flow, like the dramatic, like amount of income and lifestyle. And so we started to kind of take it for granted or be a little bit riskier. We had a lot of courage. And I think that's important, to take big risks, because that's how you get big wins. And we took a big risk, and it went really, really wrong. And honestly, we lost everything. We lost everything. We went completely bankrupt. I remember I like just everything disappeared around me. We were on food stamps. I had government help. I didn't tell like anybody, nobody knew. And I just remember crying all the time. I remember at a point in my life that I just prayed to God for $1,000, because $1,000 to me would help me to breathe, would help me to like maybe stop crying for a little bit. It would help me to like take care of my kids and like be like do something fun with it. I don't know. It was so hard. I mean, my husband were fighting and all these things. And that's when it's funny because when you get so stuck in the doing, even as a student, you can go back and forth, just like a pendulum. You can do really amazing, you can do really bad. Your studies can be phenomenal, and then you slack off. I slacked off, and that's when I realized, like, okay, this can't just be a hobby. This can't be something fun. This needs to be like my dedication. And I know this is the answer, and I need to stop being sloppy. I was being sloppy. I was not. I knew the answers, and what is wisdom if you don't do anything with it? So that's when I like literally was like, you know what, screw this. I need to lead by example, and I'm gonna be accountable, and I'm gonna hold myself to it. That's when I invested like I've never invested before, when I had nothing. I took the money that I did have and I put it into taking another risk. And I make sure when the investment, obviously you get a return on it. So I worked with a mindset coach. I said, I need to flip the switch. I know everything on the outside of me is happening because of me. It's happening for me, by me, not to me. And I know that. So what is the story that I'm learning? I'm showing people that, again, you can go like this, you can go like this. I like to stay up here, but I'm okay if it goes back, because I know how to get back up. That's what happens. I mean, we'd all be millionaires on the beach with six-pack abs drinking margaritas, right? If like we understood that that's swaying. But most of us get down and we just stay there, because going back up and taking that risk again or making that investment, that's too scary. It's not scary, it's exciting. And you're the only person that gets to label that. It's up to you. So I learned to relabel my mind, reprogram my mind. So that mindset person helped me to rediscover a lot of different things. Then it turned into hiring business consultants. Then it turned into all these different investments. And then honestly, that's when I really tapped into her, which I call, again, my inner feminine beast. She just showed me the way, and then it just became serving and teaching other people what you know. And that's when it really takes off. So it got bad, trust me, but like it's supposed to. It's supposed to. It's part of my story. And every single mentor I've ever had some of the best stories. And that's what makes you gravitate towards them, because they're showing you not only are they, doing it, but they can teach it because they lived through it. And you go through the bad times so that you can literally relate to everybody. I think that's so important. I mean, some of like the best names, like, politically speaking, we don't need to know that, but Donald Trump is obviously a wealthy man. He's had 4 bankruptcies. Damon John, he literally had $40 in his pocket until he created a $7 billion company, right? I mean, my mentor that I work right now was homeless for 2 months living in her car. And now she made $1 million a month this past month, and she's my age. So like, it makes your story. You're supposed to experience those things, I think. It's just how you shine through them.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and it's the way that I think about my life. It's the way that I think about myself as a coach. There's still so much more growth for me, but the point is, I had a very big negative fall from grace, and it was the best thing that ever happened. But more importantly, when we go on this journey like you are, where we're helping each other, we are helping each other. When we're helping other people, it really pays for people to be able to relate to you and to go, well, Brett's not telling me, or Cynthia's not telling me to do something because they just think it's a good idea. They've actually been through it. Yeah. They're actually a product of the product. I think that's so powerful and so important to remember. And if you are, looking at being mentored by someone, like, what are their qualifications? And I don't mean, where did they study? I mean, what have they done wrong? And how did they learn from it?
Yeah. I think, I think it's really important when you're a coach or you're a mentor for somebody that you are leading by example, that you are being accountable. You obviously aren't just saying it and preaching it, you're practicing it. I think having so many, clients, like, it's made me so much more accountable. I think having employees and having them come to me as their livelihood makes me so much more accountable in my business. And it's funny though, but whenever you teach, like, even this conversation right now today, like, if we're just having fun conversations, we're having it and we're experiencing it because like we need to hear these things too, or the questions that come up are the things that we need to relate to. So the other day, like a bunch of people wrote into me and I thought it was like so sweet. They're like, you know, you did a podcast all about patience and I really needed to hear that. And I was like, you want to know a secret? I did that podcast because I really needed to hear it too. Like that, I needed patience. And if I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to tell everybody that this is how it needs to be done, then I need to really hold myself accountable to it. So I was like checking myself by creating that. And when I hear myself and I can listen it back sometimes, I'm like, girl, you're telling everybody else to do it. You need to be doing it too. It's important. And honestly, it's through serving other people that's where the real success comes. Everybody starts their business in the beginning because you have a passion and because like, heck yeah, I can make money. But when you really have clients and they start coming to you with like tears and joy and jumping up and down and like huge transformations, that's when you're just like, this is what it's about, that feeling, that change. And the more and more you go in with that feeling, the money goes up, the result, the referrals, the testimonials, like it's when you make it about them, the success is just inevitable. Yeah.
I love it. You know, I was in a mastermind the other day and Tim Story came on and spoke to us. And the one thing he said, and you're saying it as well, is serve your way to the top. Like it's all in how you actually look after other people. You know, it's the law of compensation. You know, the more you give, the more you get. You know, so what are you actually giving? I went through all the spiritual laws yesterday. I did the universal laws, universal laws, which are spiritual, and explained what they all mean and how you can relate them or how you can actually apply them into your life. And, you know, they're all quite simple and they all connect to each other. And the more you immerse yourself in it and the more you apply it then into your life, actually do it. I know the masculine, but then, you know, like you're saying, there's times where you're going to really have that balance and understand when you need to be, but then you're going to have to do stuff. Like some people get stuck, like from the movie The Secret. That was what gave me my first breakthrough.
Me too.
Well, my first breakthrough in my mind, thinking, oh my God, what do you mean you can do all this? Right. But it was kind of presented in a way where you would just be like, you get into your thought process and it would just manifest. Yes, that's a part of it, but there's two parts to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
What did you find? Like, is that a similar thing for you?
So when I was younger, I remember I played by myself a lot. So my imagination is off the chains. Like it still is as an adult, but it is a muscle you have to work. I always joke around. I say, I have two little boys. So I always say there's nothing more powerful than a 4-year-old in a Batman suit. Because like when my boys are in the other room, like we wouldn't be able to record this. They're like, bing, 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 right? It's insane. And you look at them and nothing can interrupt them. They are like in it. They are immersed. And I remember I was in college, I read The Secret. And that's when I was like, this imagination thing, there's something to it. Cause I can feel it sometimes. And like, I always felt like I was magical. Like even when I was little, I always like loved like Hocus Pocus, the movie, and like anything magical and Harry Potter and all this stuff. Cause I just believe in magic. I do. And so that to me was like a little taste of what's possible. And that is where I first started. And that book is what helped me to attract my husband. We, like I said, we met when we were in college. And so it happened like really quickly. And so I was like, there's something to this. And that's when I started like reading on the own. But I remember in the beginning, I wouldn't share with anybody that I was doing these things, or like, cause I would sound like an idiot if they knew I was smelling fake flowers, like that, like my dream husband would bring me, or I was setting the table for 2, even though nobody was there. So I could like really get in the feeling of it. When I started meditating and I started really connecting intuitively, I actually used to be professional psychic and medium. Like it just kind of happened with the intuition. I remember my family thinking like, oh my God, is she part of a cult? Is she going to shave her head? Like all these like things. I was like, no, I swear I'm just meditating and loving people and like trying to help as many people. And it changed where they all started to understand and gravitate in. But it was a crazy journey but so many people are opening up to it now. And it's so fun. That's what I like to do, is that when I teach sales, I teach it very much from like intuitive style, very like feminine and approachable and like, but badass at the same time. And people always say like, it's so, mixture of woo-woo with practicality. And I would have these very successful 7-8 figure entrepreneurs, and they would always come up to me after my sales trainings and they would be like, I love how woo-woo you are. I'm like, why are you whispering? Like, why? And it's funny because everyone's kind of like nervous about talking about these concepts, but these are ancient concepts that govern the universe, that control just not your sales, like everything in life. Why don't you want to learn about them? So I kind of created like a safe space for women to celebrate and to have success in all areas, but also to be comfortable talking about the magical side of the like universal law. So that's where we're getting. Sorry.
No, it's good. And it's reminding me of like the law of polarity or the law of opposites, that everything has an exact and equal opposite as well. And that's kind of what it is that, you know, as you're saying, like with high profile men and women who, you know, are just doing a lot of the doing, you know, getting shit done.
Yeah.
They're not, you know, and it's like, and you've probably heard it time and time again, and it's true. It's not working harder. It's actually just, you know, like the book that actually inspired Rhonda Byrne to make The Secret, she made the movie and then she wrote the book, was The Science of Getting Rich, you know, by Wallace D. Wattles. And what does he say? It's not, trying to think of the quote that he has, which is really profound. It's not doing certain things that gets you riches, it's doing things in a certain way. And one of those certain ways is, like you're explaining, is being more in that feminine energy of being, you know, rather than just trying to make it happen.
Yeah, it's not what you do, it's who you are when you do it. Right. Like.
And added to that, it's, you know, most people are thinking that they get what they desire, but they get who they are. And that's another concept that I think, you know, it might take people a little bit to understand, but you don't get what you want, you get who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what you do. That's what I'm hearing. I'm loving it, by the way. I wish I was a woman so I could join your team.
I mean, technically, like, it's open. There's some of my mentors that I work with, they are like women only. Like if a gentleman wanted to join with me, it's not like inclusive. The thing is, I have my Facebook group. It's called Spiritual Success Sorority. I just like alliteration. My name's Cynthia Stant. I usually screw myself because on live video, I'm always like trying to say something and like falling over it. But I don't think, you know, some people are like, no, men can't join. I'm like, no, it's open. I really believe in being open. And so, especially I do one-on-one work too. And I have a gentleman that I've definitely worked with in the past. So.
Oh, that's good. Well, we might chat later. But and I was thinking, because you said Harry Potter, I was thinking Slytherin. You probably were in that, a Slytherin fan.
I feel like I would have been a Slytherin. Like I would have been. That's funny.
Hey, I guess question to you, you know, thinking about the future, and I know that obviously you've had a lot of success, and you're going to continue to do that because you continue to do the work. And I love that you said, you know, especially about the not gratitude, the last thing you did on patience, the last podcast you did on patience, that, you know, someone said, oh, I'm so glad you did that. And you said, yes, so am I. Because I know I go through those feelings as well. Like I'm delivering content, delivering information. Like yesterday, doing a masterclass and delivering, there's a whole lot of content. But when I was going through the universal laws, I was thinking, oh yeah, I need to focus more on that one. Oh, I need to focus more on that one. You know, and it is like when you are, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you don't think that you've got it all, when you don't think that I'm the expert, I'm still learning. You know, when you hear, you know, using martial arts as an example, when you hear some martial arts masters who, you know, have 7-degree black belts and they say, I'm just getting started. And you think, what do you mean you're just getting started? I've got a white belt. How long is it going to take me? But the point is, you'll never stop learning. And if you have that open mentality that I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and you allow your clients or your audience to actually teach you, because then you can become better yourself, and then you can impart that onto other people. It's that cycle, isn't it? You know, paying it forward. So question
you're always growing. If you're not growing, you're dead. So keep growing. And that's honestly, that's what I like to do too. Yeah. So for my podcast, I always have people write in and tell me what they want me to talk about. because one, it puts me up to a new challenge. It helps me think about how do I feel about that. And then I never want to talk about what I think people want to hear. I want to talk about what I know they want to hear. So that's like always like important to me too. Yeah.
So on that, you know, or on where you're heading, like, is there something else that you're working towards? Like, what's the big picture for you?
So big picture for me is that I have my group program, but it's relatively new actually, but it just fell into place. It wasn't too long ago that I was working 80+ hour weeks in a corporate position. And like I said, I was in sales, but I kept thinking like, if I'm doing this and running the entire thing for someone else, like I should probably do this for myself. And so it's still relatively new. It really took off, but I'm only about the 5th month of my business. And so obviously just keep doing what I'm doing and growing it and scaling it and more courses and things like that. I'm excited to see where it takes me. But again, the vision is just like, I like to focus on like 6 months at a time. You can do a lot in 6 months, trust me. But I don't want to think too much of the how. So right now my 6 months goal is obviously a multiple 6-figure company where I'm helping as many women as possible to really find their inner feminine beast, to make a difference, create that ripple effect, to allow them to have that higher calling come and emerge through them into this physical reality, get shit done, and at the same time leave a legacy where, you know, so many people can realize that they're so much more magical than they think. So, I mean, what's interesting though is like, you know, one of the things that's challenged me the most, and you were talking about it with a black belt, I have realized that one mental thing that I work on and I've been focusing on is that like we don't celebrate enough of the wins. We always go directly to like the negative. And when we're little, what's the number one word we always get? No, right? Like, no, don't do this. No, don't touch that. No, you're too dirty. No, you're going to break this. No, 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 no. So we literally look for the negative things. And it's, so my very first month in business, I closed $28,000 in sales first month. And to most people, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's so great. But I was so hard on myself because I was like, oh, well, I'm used to working with 7-8-figure people and I coach them. So I know that I can do this. And like, and I had expenses. My expenses were this, and this, and I had Facebook ads and I have a team of people and I was like, I was mushing it all together and cutting that's basically like having a friend come up to you and be like, hey, I just like wanted to give you a cup of coffee. And you're like, it's not good enough. I was mixing like the flow of it in and mixing it with the stuff that's going, like they're two separate flows. So that's why I was like, no, wait, that's what really started the whole community that I have is like celebrate all the wins. Like, I don't care if it's, you just bought that Maserati, you just got 5 clients this month, or you just got your nails done today, or you had coffee with an old friend and just chilled for 3 hours because it was great. Like those wins, we need to celebrate. And sometimes you don't have safe spaces to celebrate. Sometimes people are like, I don't want to hear about your good stuff. You don't know how hard it is for me. Like, so I need to make sure that we focus on all the wins and give ourselves credit and don't work against the laws. Make sure we remind ourselves that even if we have the out, that's good. The in is just as important. So that's where, you know, my whole community got started. It was just like celebrate the wins. It's so important. So yeah.
I love it. And it really is like, it's one of those things. And I think maybe sometimes as coaches we're so good at, you know, giving, and often, you know, it's harder to receive. And it really is an important part of that process, you know, and it's not a surprise to me that, you know, everything is sort of leading its way to polarity or even to yin yang, you know, to having that everything has, you know, a male and female, everything has an opposite, you know, in this 3D physical world at least. Yep. So, you know, and understanding that we need to have balance. And I love that you used the word discipline.
Best word.
Discipline, you know, and yeah, you're right. Some people look at it like, oh, got to be more disciplined. Oh, you know, it's like far out, you know. I'd rather just go with the flow. Well, you will go with the flow if you get more disciplined.
Yeah, that's how you literally, it's the equation, surrender plus discipline equals flow. Like that's it.
Yeah. You know, and
I always joke around, I say, why are you swimming upstream when I have literally a double-seater inner tube? Like, come sit with me and we'll drink margaritas the whole way down. Like, that's how it could be, right? So stop swimming upstream. Once you do all the doing, eventually when you're getting tired and you're getting stressed and you're getting like fatigued and just like everyone's telling you you're doing too much, like you're doing too much. Like you keep doing, you're not allowing the universe to respond. You have to create the space for it to be able to do it. Otherwise you're going to miss out on all the magic. You're walking around the blind.
You're reminding me of Abraham by saying Upstream. If anyone knows Abraham Hicks.
Of course.
Because, you know, we need to be going with the stream. We need to flow downstream, you know, flow with the rapids, and well, maybe not the rapids. We want to flow with the nice.
That's true sometimes. That can be fun.
Yeah. Oh, you know, we are going to have rapids. Actually, I nearly forgot, and I'm glad it's kind of reminded me that in something you said, it reminded me of, I was trying to think, who was it that said it? Like, if you were just focused, this is why a lot of people don't have success, is they're so focused on everything working out really well. Like, I just needed to work out the right way. And this was definitely me. You know, I made a decision. I was on Jack Canfield's show last year, and he asked me a question near the end. He said, you know, out of all the success you've had this past year, I know you just explained that there's a recipe to it, and I agree. He said, what would be one thing that you could really attribute to a lot of the success that you've had? What's one thing that you've done? And it was great that I had it in my mind, because look, that could have really stumped me. And I said, you know, I remember making a decision or a commitment to myself, which was, I need to stop being afraid of failing, and I need to start being afraid of not trying. Mm-hmm. And I created a question for myself, which is, so I don't get into that conscious, you know, monkey chatter, where I ask myself, does this have an ability to get me closer to my goal? And if I get that gut feeling, like that intuition, the instinct, yes, then I'll say yes. If I go into that, you know, confused chatter, I'll say no. I'll make the decision either way, and at least that way I can move forward. And what it reminded me when I heard this person, I wish I could remember who it was, when they were saying a lot of the people who aren't successful, the reason they're not successful is because they're so worried about whether they're going to fail, rather than knowing you are going to fail. Mm-hmm. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
Part of the process. And I love that you explained that story about losing everything, you know, through real estate. I'm sure it was not an enjoyable experience in it, but on the other side of it, you know, there is so much that you can learn from it. And so much you can take from it.
It's proof. We like evidence. We've conditioned ourselves to rely on evidence. So if I've already did it, I can do it again. So we did, and 10 times more. but some people would have failed and be like, man, that sucks. I'm never putting myself out there again, and just stayed there. You have to just keep going. My old boss, she used to always talk about imperfect action. And honestly, I live by that. You have to get like comfortable with being uncomfortable every single day. There's not one single day that I'm not freaking terrified. I mean, I'm comfortable on camera, as you can see, but you and I are new acquaintances. I didn't know exactly what to expect today. I still get the butterflies. I still like get the tummies. I always wear turtlenecks because I get blotchy. It's not cute. But the thing is, what's the difference between, you know, being excited and being nervous? It's just the way you label it. So once you get uncomfortable enough, I'm known in the industry for shaking my clients with love. Like, I make them extremely uncomfortable because I show them it's not that bad. Like, I'm known for pushing in the deep end. And if you are drowning, I'll throw you the inner tube, but I'll make you doggy paddle to it because I know you can. Right. So the thing is, I'll have group sessions and I'll just call on somebody sometimes. They're like, no. And yes, you can and you will. And I'll just call them out. And it's so important because you're going to realize it's not that bad. So once you get used to it, you start craving it because you stop labeling that as fear and you start realizing that sensation is really just a feeling of growth. Like you said, every time you keep growing, that's where the success comes in. I'm very visual. So my people who follow me know the boulder. I was talking about the boulder, but it's you have this giant boulder in front of you and you're like, oh my God, this is not working. This is not moving anywhere. Cynthia, why did I hire you? This isn't possible. This is not happening. I'm like, you're getting stronger, pushing it. Trust me, go, go, go. They're like, oh, I hate you. This is, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then it starts nudging and they look at me and they go, oh, it's nudging. And I say, go harder. And they're like, what? They go a little bit harder. And then all of a sudden it starts moving. But what happens? Law of inertia, what goes in action stays, or what goes in motion stays in motion. And then that boulder just starts going and nobody wants to be in the way of that boulder when it's taking off, right? And that's what happens. But then you go to the next boulder, right? Because that's one area of your life. Then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one. And you're going to well, I did it in that area. Those same rules, mindset, all those things that I applied to that area easily goes to this one. So it's just understanding it's so worth the boulder and everything you want is on the other side of fear, right? So it's just do it. You have to do it. You have to do it.
Totally agree. Totally agree. You just have to do it. And, I had one of my main coaches. I have a few, probably like you. I have a few.
Every great person, if you have somebody that's your mentor and they don't have mentors, you should find a new mentor. Like it's, yeah.
I took on another new one the other day and I was like, I didn't want, okay, yeah, I know I need it. But, you don't feel like, sometimes you don't feel like it's time, or you don't feel like you're ready, or you don't feel like you don't have the money, whatever it might be, but you got to do it. Yeah. And I agree. And all of my mentors or coaches that I work with, they all have their mentors and coaches. We all have masterminds, we got to, and that's why I love what you said at the start, because, I think if you're a product of your product and you're telling people to do stuff and you're not doing it, well, why should you expect them to, one, get results, and two, even listen to you?
Yeah.
But lost my train of thought.
I always think that's crazy when there's like actual online coaches who don't have mentors. And like, you're asking all these people to invest in you, but you're not investing in yourself in the same area. That's literally putting a wall up immediately.
Yeah.
So.
100%. Yeah. And look, I was going to mention James Whitaker, who's one of my coaches. I had him on with one of my client mastermind groups just before you. And he was sharing exactly what you just said before, which was every single day, he's making sure that he's getting uncomfortable. He's always doing something, at least one thing, but usually it's more than that, but one thing at least, where he's getting himself uncomfortable. Because then you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, as you said before, and you do. And that's what I made the decision to do, at the start of 2019. I said the same thing. I've got to stop being worried about being uncomfortable and actually start to enjoy it. And if I'm not feeling, you might want to call it fear, or if I'm not feeling like I'm pushing myself, I get the awareness that I'm not doing it. And I go, okay, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
I'm missing something here, and I push myself.
And the thing is, after you do it, you realize like, I was just making problems into problems that weren't even problems. Like I had all these stories about what could go wrong, and I did it and it wasn't even that bad. In fact, it was wonderful. And it led to something new, which led to something new, which led to something new. Always. Nobody ever like does something that was nervous and then got, like finished it and was like, I'm so mad I did that. There was like, I'm so happy that I did,
Yeah. And that's the point as well, isn't it? I think some people are afraid of what others are going to say, especially if people are paying you, if you're a coach or you're a consultant and someone's paying you money, you think, I don't want them to be upset. Well, do you want them to get results? Or do you want them to be upset for a little bit until they actually see why you've got them to do something? And I think that's a part of the process. If you're a new coach, that you really have to understand early on that you're going to have to stop being a people pleaser. And, would you do it? If you do it, then why aren't you asking them to do it?
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is, what's amazing too is that you're in Australia right now.
Yeah.
I'm in Florida. Where did you say Margita was from?
Margita's in Slovakia.
Slovakia. Okay. This is living proof, everybody. It's never been easy.
Liza's in, she's in an island. Can't think of it. Samoa, I think, Samoa. And Wes is in the Netherlands. So, yeah, we generally get people all around the world coming in, and we've got people, I'm sure, watching on Facebook as well. And it is.
It's never been easier to sell. And selling, and remember, it's not what you do to people, it's what you do for people, right? And so the thing is, when you go up, like I'm very much myself, like I'm being pretty clean here, but I get a little potty mouth a little bit when I'm presenting in front of my audience. My kids, my husband's really being good watching them, but sometimes they come in here and they'll shoot me with Nerf guns and my ring lights will fall over, and they just laugh because they can relate to it, right? I've worked with mentors who are like, this the whole time, and that's not me. Like, I'm not going to be a pageant girl. Like, it's just not who I am. But the thing is, it's not about pleasing everybody. It's about really connecting to your people who value you. And when it comes to the business side, because it's still a big part of me, it's not about having thousands of clients at $50. It's about having 50 clients at $1,000+ because people really see the value. And what happens when you do that, you attract people who really want to be committed. You attract people who want to be committed, because your pricing is your positioning. And when they want to be committed, that's where they get results. You need your clients to get results. I always say to my clients, your success is my reputation. And I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm here to convey my message, stand in my truth. And if you want to work with me, great. If I feel like you're a good fit too, because I want to make sure you're coming in here to be serious. But the thing is, I need you to get results because 1, that's where referrals will come from. That's where testimonials will come from on the business side. But 3, that's why I'm doing this in the first place, is so that you get results, right? I'm not going to waste my time and dabble. I don't mess with dabblers. So it's like, yeah, but exactly. Like, it's just be yourself and don't compare yourself. There's so many gurus out there. There's so many mindset coaches. There's so many business coaches. Why do they pick you? Because they love you, Brett, because you're like rocking your pink blazer and you're just, like having so much fun, and you're allowed to give personal stories and open up and be authentic. You're not sitting there with duck lips on top of a Ferrari, like trying to like be so, yeah, no, it's about being authentic, and people can feel that. And that's, everybody is intuitive. Everybody can sense energy. So it's never been easier. So yeah, definitely don't compare yourself to other people, and just be real and just connect to people authentically.
Love it.
It's really where you're going to find success.
Yeah, you're speaking my language. And yeah, there are times that I also have a potty mouth. I don't do it.
I knew you and I are going to be really good friends.
Yeah, I do at times. Yeah, if I get really inspired, yeah, it will start to come out.
But it just flows. You can't censor it. I always like warn people. I'm like, today's that day. I can feel it. Just if your kids are watching, not today.
Yeah, I probably more so do it in my groups rather than doing it on Mastering Success. But Margita has some questions for you. So is it all right if she asks a couple of questions?
Yeah. Hi, Margita. We met a little bit earlier.
I love your energy. I love Brett's energy. I love your energy. You're just amazing, Cynthia. Yeah. And I have a few questions. I don't know how much time Brett has, but Brett, please stop me. I can maybe ask you questions through the messenger or through the Facebook.
I'm sure.
So first question. Yeah.
I was just, you asked your questions, but I was going to say, I'm sure, like to anyone, reach out to Cynthia. She, as she said just a moment ago, she's very selective who she works with. So, if you want to work with her, just make sure you're committed to actually go on that journey. But even if it was just to connect and keep a watch of what Cynthia's doing, and then you might get to that point where you go, hey, I'm ready. Let's do it. So yeah, please do that. But go for it, Margita. Go for it.
Yeah, and Cynthia, you said that with meditation, we should not do guided meditation. So, and why is it so?
So if you like doing it, that's great. In addition to, so the real meditation is the art of doing nothing, is learning to shut off your thoughts. So real quick, scenario that I like. Radio station. Okay. If you have a radio station that you absolutely love, and you understand radio's waves, we can't see them, but obviously they are happening to us. If you love this radio station that you're at and everything on it is amazing, it's the music, you love the host, you even love the commercials because it's like, shit, I want to buy. It's like, oh, I love this. Like, give me more of it. But you're on this station over here where it's country, and I love country, but like, you don't like country music. You don't like the host. You don't like anything you don't need a tractor. So you don't like the commercials. Like, you don't like any of that. Well, that's your problem because you're not tuning into the right frequency. You need to do the doing, which is the discipline, reach out, turn the dial, and align. What happens in order to align is that you need to block off all the other frequencies, which is your thoughts. And what happens is when I'm doing a guided meditation, it's taking you through a story. It's making you visualize. It's making you think of a time. And it's like, see the water, hear the water. No, that's making you create other thoughts. And then all of a sudden you hear the water. So now you're seeing a cute lifeguard on the water, and you're seeing like, oh, the time that you were with your old friends. Block off the thoughts because the thoughts are limiting. Remember, the best, sexiest, glamorous thought is nothing compared to what God's source universe has in store. Shut off the thought and receive the feeling. And it might feel like nothing in the beginning, but eventually, I always say 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks working with me. You're going to get the sensations. You're going to tap into intuition. You're going to start having clairvoyance. You're going to start having that connection to the inner feminine beast. And that's when things start magically happening. Because as he said, law of correspondence, when you do the work in the inside, everything on the outside will begin to change. So not listening to somebody else. Somebody else tells you to do something, that's their words, their opinions. You need to come up with your own